Anu slipped out of Qmarbi's hold and fled did Anu, rising up to the sky. After him Qmarbi rushed, seized him by his feet, he pulled him down from the skies. He bit his loins, and the manhood of Anu, with the insides of Qmarbi combined, fused as bronze. According to this ancient tale, the battle did not result in a total victory. Though emasculated, Anu managed to fly back to his heavenly abode, leaving Qmarbi in control of Earth. Meanwhile, Anu's manhood produced several deities within Qmarbi's insides, which he, like Cronus in the Greek legends, was forced to release. One of these was Tishab, the chief Hittite deity. However, there was to be one more epic battle before Tishab could rule in peace. Learning of the appearance of an heir to Anu in Kamiya heavenly abode, Qmarbi devised a plan to raise a rival to the god of storms. Into his hand he took his staff, upon his feet he put the shoes that are swift as winds, and he went from his city Irkish to the abode of the lady of the great mountain. Reaching her, his desire was aroused, he slept with Lady Mountain, his manhood flowed into her. 5 times he took her. 10 times he took her. Was Qmarbi simply lustful? We have reason to believe that much more was involved. Our guess would be that the succession rules of the gods were such that the son of Qmarbi, by the lady of the great mountain, could have claimed to be the rightful heir to the heavenly throne, and that Qmarbi took the goddess 5 and 10 times in order to make sure that she conceived, as indeed she did. She bore a son, whom Qmarbi symbolically named Ulekumai, suppressor of Kamiyat Tishab's abode. The battle for succession was foreseen by Qmarbi as one that would entail fighting in the heavens. Having destined his son to suppress the incumbent Sakamiya, Qmarbi further proclaimed for his son, let him ascend to heaven for kingship. Let him vanquish Kamiya, the beautiful city. Let him attack the god of storms and tear him to pieces like a mortal. Let him shoot down all the gods from the sky. Did the particular battles fought by Tishab upon earth and in the skies take place when the age of Taurus commenced, circa 4000 BC? Was it for that reason that the winter was granted association with the bull? And were the events in any way connected with the beginning, at the very same time, of the sudden civilization of Sumer? There can be no doubt that the Hittite pantheon and tales of the gods indeed had their roots in Sumer, its civilization, and its gods. The tale of the challenge to the divine throne by Ulekumai continues to relate heroic battles, but of an indecisive nature. At one point, the failure of Tishab to defeat his adversary even caused his spouse, Hebat, to attempt suicide. Finally, an appeal was made to the gods to mediate the dispute, and an assembly of the gods was called. It was led by an olden god named Enlil, and another olden god named Ea, who was called upon to produce the old tablets with the words of destiny, some ancient records that could apparently help settle the dispute regarding the divine succession. When these records failed to settle the dispute, Enlil advised another battle with the challenger, but with the help of some very ancient weapons. Listen, ye olden gods, ye who know the olden words. Enlil said to his followers, open ye the ancient storehouses of the fathers and the forefathers. Bring forth the olden copper lance with which heaven was separated from earth, and let them sever the feet of Ulekumai. Who were these olden gods? The answer is obvious for all of them: Anu, Entu, Enlil, Ninlil, Ea, Ishkar bear Sumerian names. Even the name of Tishab, as well as the names of other Hittite gods, were often written in Sumerian script to denote their identities. Also, some of the places named in the action were those of ancient Sumerian sites. It dawned on the scholars that the Hittites in fact worshipped a pantheon of Sumerian origins, and that the arena of the tales of the olden gods was Sumer. This, however, was only part of a much wider discovery. Not only was the Hittite language found to be based on several Indo-European dialects, but it was also found to be subject to substantial Akkadian influence, both in speech and more so in writing. Since Akkadian was the international language of the ancient world, in the 2nd millennium BC, its influence on Hittite could somehow be rationalized. But there was cause for true astonishment when scholars discovered in the course of deciphering Hittite that it extensively employed Sumerian pictographic signs, syllables, and even whole words. Moreover, it became obvious that Sumerian was their language of high learning. The Sumerian language, in the words of Alargurni the Hittites, was intensively studied at Hattushash, the capital city, and Sumerian Hittite vocabularies were found there. Many of the syllables associated with the cuneiform signs in the Hittite period are really Sumerian words of which the meaning had been forgotten by the Hittites. In the Hittite texts, the scribes often replaced common Hittite words by the corresponding Sumerian or Babylonian word. Now, when the Hittites reached Babylon sometime after 1600 BC, the Sumerians were already long gone from the Near Eastern scene. How was it, then, that their language, literature, and religion dominated another great kingdom in another millennium, and in another part of Asia? The bridge, scholars have recently discovered, were a people called the Hurrians. Referred to in the Old Testament as the Horites, free people, they dominated the wide area between Sumer and Akkad in Mesopotamia, and the Hittite kingdom in Anatolia. In the north their lands were the ancient cedar lands, from which countries near and far obtained their best woods. In the east their centers embraced the present-day oil fields of Iraq. In one city alone, Nuzi, archaeologists found not only the usual structures and artifacts, but also thousands of legal and social documents of great value. In the west, the Hurrians' rule and influence extended to the Mediterranean coast, and encompassed such great ancient centers of trade, industry, and learning as Carchemish and Adalak. But the seats of their power, the main centers of the ancient trade routes, and the sites of the most venerated shrines were within the heartland that was between the two rivers, the biblical Naharaim. Their most ancient capital, as yet undiscovered, was located somewhere on the Kaba River. Their greatest trading center, on the Bailey River, was the biblical Haran, the city where the family of the patriarch Abraham sojourned on their way from Ur, in southern Mesopotamia, to the land of Canaan. Egyptian and Mesopotamian royal documents referred to the human kingdom as Mitanni, and dealt with it on an equal footing, a strong power whose influence spread beyond its immediate borders. The Hittites called their human neighbors Hurri. Some scholars pointed out, however, that the word could also be read Har, and like G. Continau in La Civilization des Hittites, and des Hurrites du Mitanni have raised the possibility that, in the name Hari, one sees the name Ari, or Aryans, for these people. There is no doubt that the Hurrians were Aryan or Indo-European in origin. Their inscriptions invoke several deities by their Vedic Aryan names, their kings bore Indo-European names, and their military and cavalry terminology derived from the Indo-European. Birozny, who in the 1920s led an effort to unravel the Hittite and human records, even went so far as to call the Hurrians the oldest Hindus. These Hurrians dominated the Hittites culturally and religiously. The Hittite mythological texts were found to be of Hurrian provenance, and even epic tales of prehistoric, semi-divine heroes were of Hurrian origin. There is no longer any doubt that the Hittites acquired their cosmology, their myths, their gods, and their pantheon of 12 from the Hurrians. The triple connection between Aryan origins, Hittite worship, and the Hurrian sources of these beliefs is remarkably well documented in a Hittite prayer by a woman for the life of her sick husband. Addressing her prayer to the goddess Hebat, Tishub's spouse, the woman intoned, "O goddess of the rising, discover Enûma, my lady, mistress of the Hatti lands, queen of heaven and earth." In the Hatti country, thy name is goddess of the rising, discover Enûma, but in the land that thou madest, in the cedar land, thou bearest the name Hebat. With all that, the culture and religion adopted and transmitted by the Hurrians were not Indo-European. Even their language was not really Indo-European. There were undoubtedly Akkadian elements in the Hurrian language, culture, and traditions. The name of their capital, Lashagani, was a variant of the Semitic Rashiani, where the waters begin. The Tigris River was called Aranzak, which we believe stemmed from the Akkadian words for river of the pure cedars. The gods Shamash and Tashmitan became the Hurrian Shemiki and Tashemitish, and so on. But since the Akkadian culture and religion were only a development of the original Sumerian traditions and beliefs, the Hurrians, in fact, absorbed and transmitted the religion of Sumer. That this was so was also evident from the frequent use of the original Sumerian divine names, epithets, and writing signs. The epic tales, it has become clear, were the tales of Sumer. The dwelling places of the olden gods were Sumerian cities. The olden language was